Ladies and gentlemen, the man that is standing across from me right now is a professional wrestler. He is a business owner. He's accomplished a lot of great things in his career, and it's my honor here today to have him on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ken Anderson. How you doing, Ken?
I'm awesome, man. Thanks for having me. Better than I deserve.
Oh man, I appreciate your time, man. You're a great name in the world of professional wrestling and the crazy world that is professional wrestling. How's life been for you?
It's good. It's good. And I've been taking a lot more bookings recently. I took a couple years where I just took some needed downtime, but I've been taking a lot more bookings and still training my students, like teaching people how to fall down.
Now, for me, I grew up watching you. I thought about saying, the Ken Anderson, but how often do you get that, man? Because I'm like, okay, this guy probably gets that all the time.
Um, Pretty often still, which I don't mind it because, I think we all want attention. People that are in this business are in the business because we want attention,
Yeah.
So when somebody gives you that attention, I don't understand why people get irritated by it. But yeah, usually like when I do my lives, because we live stream from the academy,
Yeah.
there's usually at least one. If I post something on Instagram or Twitter or anything, the response is usually no matter what, even if I post something about my kids,
Yeah.
somebody will post Mister. So
Now, for you, it's been a minute since your WWE and TNA run, but
yep.
do you still get recognized out in public, Ken?
Um, it depends on the location
Okay.
occasionally, but I never really had I've always been kind of I don't say incognito, but
Yeah.
I wear a hat most of the time, and
Yeah.
you know
You kind of stay hidden.
I don't have like that look where heads are turning.
Yeah.
Even though that is one of the best pieces of advice that I ever got, and it was from Steve Kern a long time ago, and he said, "You should be the guy that if you want to make it in this business, you should be the person that when you go out to eat with your friends or family, that everybody is at the table next to you going like, I don't know what that guy does, but he does something like he does something cool."
So
So
how do you spend your days now that you're removed from those WWE and TNA days?
either training my students at the academy or spending time with my kids, my wife. I guess I'm just a normal Joe. I always have been.
Yeah.
Um, go to the grocery store and
Are you
you know
still in Wisconsin?
I'm in Minneapolis.
Minneapolis now.
I've
Okay.
actually lived in Minneapolis since um well for a very long time, since 2001, on and off. But Green Bay is like where my heart lies.
Yeah.
Packer fan, so
Are you still a Packer fan?
yes.
The hell of
Yep.
a time to be a Packer fan.
It is. It is. We're looking at, I don't follow it as religiously as I used to, but like
Okay.
I don't want to jump the gun too much. But it's possible that we're looking at a third Hall of Fame quarterback if this guy can keep it up. His
Yeah.
statistics have been really, really good this year. So
What did you think of him at the start though? Because it didn't always start. He didn't start very strong.
uh, I try to never, I try to never look at somebody out of the gates and just make a blanket decision. There's always that time where they got to feel things out a little bit and get comfortable. I do the same thing with students. I'll have a student come in, and I've been proven wrong before in
Okay.
both areas, both ways, where somebody will come in and I'll say like, "Wow, that person's super athletic, super gifted. They could make it," and then they're gone 2 weeks later. Or the people that have two left feet that suddenly, they figure it out after a couple months.
What makes a difference in that? Because obviously two different situations on how you start. I mean, you as a teacher.
Um, Persistence.
Okay.
And I think there are a few fundamental movements that we do in wrestling, and the better those fundamental movements are, everything else sort of maps onto those. So people always want to jump right into doing the flippy floppy stuff, right? And doing the cool moves.
Yeah.
But if you can't do a basic handstand bump or just take a back bump or take a flip bump or, there's certain bumps that you need to be able to do or rolls that I think you'll struggle throughout your career. I think it gets easier the more you work on fundamentals. And I know that's cliche and every coach always says that, but it's so true. So I focus really heavily on repetition. We do it over and over and over and over again. And people are going to think like, this is boring, this sucks. But I promise you, in the long run, you'll thank me for it.
Did you ever envision, so if you thought back to yourself like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, did you ever envision yourself being a teacher, being in the role that you're in, running a business and running a school of professional wrestling?
That's a very good question. Yes, I always, from the time that I got into the business, I knew that I wanted to help people at some point. When I broke in, I didn't know anybody. I had no connections. I knew nothing. I barely knew anything about the business. I was fortunate that my trainers were great trainers and knew enough about the business that they gave me those building blocks. But I had to spend 6 years sort of spinning my wheels and trying to figure out what's the formula. How do I get to WWE? And I I knew that there were some things that I learned along the way that I wish it hadn't taken me 4 or 5 years to figure out. So that's sort of I always wanted to open a place and have the ability to help people cut corners a little bit.
Yeah. Now, I'm sure, again, you're known as Mr. Kennedy, right? People
Mhm.
know, people that actually watch the professional wrestling product, the WWE product, they know who you are. So do you always typically get the person that's saying, hey, how do I get to WWE? Like, how do I get there as fast as possible? Or, hey, I'm going to be a WWE wrestler. Do you get that often or no? Or no?
No, I would say most people that come through our door, there's a few people always that, hey, WWE or bust.
Yeah.
I think most people, because I always ask on day one, I go around the room and I say, like,
Yeah.
introduce yourself and tell us what got you into professional wrestling. What do you expect to get out of this business? And I get everything from I want to get to WWE, or I like Japanese wrestling. I want to go to Japan, or I just want to do this with my buddies and I just want to give it a shot and see what happens. I had an attorney. He's a partner at one of the bigger law firms in the
Yeah.
Twin Cities here. This was right when we opened up. It was like 2016, and he just said that his wife saw a commercial one night and said, "Do it." And he was, like I said, he was an attorney in his late 30s, always wanted to do it, and decided, I'm going to give it a shot. I just want to have a match in front of a crowd. And he ended up being, he's a graduate of the academy, which not everybody graduates. He's an academy graduate, and he ended up spending a year in the business and had 30 or 40 matches in front of live crowds, and then retired from the business. And he has on his wall in his office, he says he has his where he passed his bar and whatever college he graduated from, his degree and his academy graduation certificate.
Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it is. And so that's sort of I know I've argued with people before, like people that get into the business should want to make money and nothing else. But I feel like success is different for different people.
Yeah.
I feel like if you come to me and you say, I want to have a match in front of a crowd, and you do that, you have achieved the success. Now we can revisit and you can come up with a new goal,
Cool.
but it's it's up to the individual.
What's the criteria of graduating from the academy?
I you have to be able to. It is subjective. It is my opinion,
Okay.
but everybody that's graduated with my idea behind it is, can you get booked consistently? Will a promoter use you and then rebook you again and use you repeatedly? Do you carry yourself as a professional? Do you look professional? And that doesn't necessarily mean you don't have to be a body guy or a girl. Like wrestlers come in all shapes and sizes, but you have to be able to do what we do Dusty Rhodes is a perfect example of somebody who, if you saw him walking down the street, you wouldn't say like, "Man, that guy's an athlete," but he could go an hour and he did regularly.
Yeah.
So, um, I just want people to have good, solid fundamentals, and that's really my criteria. And I'll tell you, like, there are some times where I'll have a graduation, and it's just sort of random. When I feel like somebody's ready, hey, I'm going to put my stamp of approval on you. Like, you're good to go. There's always a couple people who are kind of, you can tell that they thought I should have been in that group, and it lights a fire under their ass. And then the next time I have graduation and they're on that list, they're like, I'm glad you waited, because it's almost like an agreement.
It's a great feeling, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for you, as a teacher, as a mentor, somebody that's
Yep.
training, the future of professional wrestling, what are two pieces of advice that you've taken from your past that you've been able to instill in your students when it comes to like knowledge?
Um, well, the first thing that sticks out to me is my trainer told me when on day one, he said, "Be careful who you step on your way to the top, because you're going to bump into them on your way back down."
Oh, that's a good one.
And then one of the other great pieces of advice I got was when I got to OVW, Jim Cornette used to do TVs where OVW TV was filmed on Wednesday, and Thursday he would wheel the TV out and we would sit and watch the tape from the previous night's show, and he would dissect it and pick it apart. And one of those, that very first Thursday that I was there, he said, "People, if you know somebody out there on the indies or somebody like humping it and they're good, and you don't go out of your way to try to get them a job and help them out and reach through them a lifeline, like, you might as well admit to yourself that you are not confident in your own abilities and you suck." And that just always, I always say, like, we have to help each other. This business is actually, you can't be you can't be selfish in this business
Okay.
to be successful, because we have to go out there. We need each other. I can't go out there and wrestle in the Invisible Man. I mean, it's been done, but like, I need the other person across the ring from me to make me look good, and I need the referee to do his job, so if we all work together, um, the match is so much better. The life is so much better. So I think that's a good lesson in wrestling, and just in life in general.
Now, I'm sure you get these questions all the time, but what was your standout favorite moment in the WWE?
Uh, Money in the Bank, standing at the top of the ladder, holding up that briefcase was a really cool experience. The other one I would say was going over to Iraq in 2007 for tribute to the troops. That was something very special to me. Glad I was able to do that. But yeah, I'd say those two things are like, and there were so many other things, like, I've forgotten more stuff that I did in that 4 years that I was in WWE. I I'll see something, somebody will send me a link to a match or like a clip from a match, and I don't even have any recollection doing it. It's
Okay.
crazy. And because the WWE schedule is just, you're constantly
Brutal.
going from one city to the next, to the next, to the next. My first overseas tour, we did, between the shows that we did in the US and abroad, we did 19 shows in 21 days. And they were all different cities or different countries.
Man, that's insane. Now, for you, and it's funny because you were like one of my all-time favorite wrestlers growing up when I was a kid. And I remember, and I was telling my friend, because I don't normally tell people who I'm going to interview, usually when I do this show, but one of my buddies that was there, I think I think I was in middle school, right? They came over to watch Mania 23, and I was like, oh my goodness, I hope this guy wins. I hope this guy wins. And that was like on my birthday. So like when you won, it was going crazy. I was going crazy. All my friends had like their own like favorite wrestler in that match. I think a few of them were huge Hardy Boy fans
Yeah.
when Jeff did the spot off the ladder against Edge. That was insane. So yeah, that WrestleMania moment, that was probably one of my favorite all-time moments there. So I did want to just tell you that. So it was pretty
Awesome.
surreal watching you win that. So it's great that it actually like meant a lot to you. Obviously, looking at the downside of things, did it? Do you have kind of like some sort of like regret when you weren't able to cash in that briefcase?
Um, Look, injuries occur,
Yeah,
and I've always somebody also told me early on, like, don't believe what was the saying goes, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear, right? Like,
yeah,
because things change all the time. Um, Especially with injuries,
yeah,
that the WWE and long-term booking is, when they can do it, it's fantastic, but it's usually plagued by injuries that occur along the way.
yeah,
It just happens. So, I mean, yeah, does it suck that it happened?
yeah,
Yes, but at the time I was like, okay, this isn't going to happen right now, but somewhere down the line it'll happen. I'll get back and I'll be better, and you know. So I have regrets as far as like my attitude and the way that I performed and did things. Like, I
yeah,
somewhere along the way I got to be it it just turned into another job where you have, if you work at really anywhere, you can get sucked into the vortex of
yeah.
complaint and figuring out, like, wow, what sucks about the job rather than, hey, what's awesome about the job.
Obviously, decisions and choices, right? That's what makes us who we are today. But is there anything you would have done differently, Ken?
Oh yeah, definitely. Just that, my attitude and just putting forth more effort. I was punching the clock, honestly.
Yeah,
When I got released, I was punching the clock essentially. There, I would show up. All right, what do you want me to do? Okay, tell me how to do it, and I'll go in there and do it. And I wasn't like, I was still performing in the ring to the best of my ability, but like the time that I was putting in outside the ring
yeah.
was very minimal.
Now, what do you think contributed to that at the time? Was it maybe you fell out of love with the sport? Was it you weren't happy with the current situation where you were, like from like a storyline perspective?
There was like, there's just so many things that
Okay.
contributed to that. But it um it's hard for me to pinpoint what it was. I know that I had a bad attitude, and I know that I would have fired me too if I was in that position. Um, I just can't figure out like what exactly it was that led me to that.
Yeah. Now.
Like I said, everybody tends to, there's always complainers at every job,
Yeah.
and you allow yourself to get sucked into, oh yeah, that is messed up, instead of just staying positive. And
Yeah. Now, I worked with a guy that was doing a promoter, was doing wrestling shows, and he'd always have me go out there and look at the local stuff just to see if there's anybody that we could have on the show.
yep.
And he'd book, guys that were in the WWE, just to be the main event, right? So
Mhm.
I remember doing a show with Matt Seidel.
Mhm.
He went by Evan Bourne, and
Yeah.
I can't forget it. I don't know if Kurt Hawkins is his actual name. I doubt it, but I just can't remember. I think Myers.
Ryan Myers, I think is his
Yeah, yeah, I believe so. I think I have one of his pictures up here. But I remember he told me I got to drive him around. So cool experience. I remember he told me there's one thing you take from this trip, kid, and I think I was like 19 years old at the time. He's like,
name.
there's one thing you take from this trip, kid, is don't believe everything you read on the internet.
Yeah.
He always told me that. There's one
Yeah.
thing because we were talking about the business for hours and hours and hours because I was hanging out with them. And he always told me, I'm gonna give you one piece of advice. Don't ever like believe just like everything you read on the internet, man. So like
I
what's that?
No, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, what I
Finish.
was gonna say, so like with you, of course, when it came to like the release and stuff that was going on in WWE, there's a bunch of stuff getting
Yeah.
thrown out there and stuff.
Yep.
Some may be true, some probably not. I mean, what do you have to say about those kind of things?
So I got it. That was one of the things, like, for a while I was really putting a lot of stock in like, I would get done with a show,
Yeah,
and as soon as I'd get in the car, I'd be like seeing because somebody would always, whether it was a house show or a TV, somebody would have an opinion
yeah,
immediately on one of the dirt sites, one of the dirt sheets. And it got to the point where like, the negativity that I know I would get pissed because they would say something and I would, I'm an employee at the end of the day. Like if Vince tells me, hey, I want you to go out there tonight with riding a unicycle, wearing a tutu, juggling chainsaws, take it or leave it. You know what I mean? Like to some degree, it's if you work at McDonald's and your boss says, I need you to go mop the toilets and
Yeah, clean the puke on the
you, you can
freaking seat.
either you have a choice. Like you
Yeah,
can either do it, or
screw this, I'm out.
somebody else will do it.
Yeah,
So there was a lot of things where like I would agree with the person, but they would take it, they would almost make like a personal attack
yeah,
over this thing. And I would be screaming at my phone, like, yes, I agree with you.
but you
But
fucking do.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I get
So
it.
I think just in that sense, I stopped. I don't read anything, and I haven't for I quit reading the dirt sheets. Like I think I had a year left on my run at WWE, and I just like yeah, I kind of feel like it can be like a negative. You can get sucked into that vortex sometimes. And my wife and I have been talking about this. The American, she's Australian,
Okay,
so she can't understand our news. Our news is so negative.
it is very negative.
I'll
Yes.
watch a 30-minute news program or an hour-long news program, and it's just negative, 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 and there's one feel-good story at the very end of the night. And we were just talking about like we should give ourselves a month where we don't watch the news and just don't pay attention and just see how it affects our lives.
Yeah, so it's insane how much negative stuff is put out there. So
You know,
you stop reading that kind of stuff, but I'm sure, I mean, stuff was circulating when you left the company. Was that kind of irritating?
I didn't
No,
care.
nothing.
I
Okay.
really, I really, I didn't hear it, so I didn't care about it. It
Okay.
was,
Now,
but in saying that, I personally had a chip on my shoulder when I left there, like, and I'd had a chip, and that chip lasted a really long time. In fact, it probably lasted my entire TNA run. I had this little chip on my shoulder where I blamed other people for my downfall. And it dawned on me not too very long ago that, oh, like I'm the reason why I was in that position to begin with. There was rumors that so and so
yeah,
got me fired, or whatever. Like, had I been doing the things that I should have been doing,
you wouldn't have been in that situation.
they wouldn't have been able to,
Yeah.
you know, if they would have said something negative to Vince, he would have been, shut up.
Speaking of Vince, how was the relationship like? I know, I mean, you said in the past that you didn't have like a buddy relationship, but what was it like working with a guy that, by all means, he's a genius. He's smart,
Yeah.
right? He's extremely smart businessman. I mean, what was it like being around that kind of guy?
I learned so much just from being around him. And he always was like a father. Like he would give me advice about just life in general.
Okay.
Um, that I feel like I use to this day. Um, but like I said, I wasn't super close with him, but I had a pretty good business relationship with him. And um, one of the things that frustrated me a lot about, I would come back through the curtain for a while when I first got to WWE. I wasn't really given any direction. It was just I'd go and ask Vince, "What do you want me to say on this promo tonight?" You go, I don't care. Just go out there and get over.
Mhm.
Just be you. And so I would, and I got progressively more over the top, and I was using humor.
Mhm.
And he finally was like, "Stop it! Stop that! You're too funny. You're being goofy. I don't believe it." And so for the longest time, I couldn't wrap my head around that. Like, what, like, this is what got me to the dance in the first place. And now you're telling me that I shouldn't do that? I don't understand. And so I fought it. And I remember one time I was so frustrated because I was getting that. And I'd come back through the curtain, I'd look at him, and he would be like,
Oh
"Ah,"
shit! Sorry.
you know? And I remember Jericho pulling me aside and going like, if he didn't care, he wouldn't say anything at all.
Yeah, I agree.
So that really sort of changed my perspective. He was
Now,
truly trying to help me out.
now after that run, you went to TNA, successful run, two-time
Mhm.
TNA champ. Did it feel kind of the same as the other accomplishments like Money in the Bank or U.S. champ, or was it uh rough?
It was it was very cool. I really enjoyed my time in TNA, and I'm proud of those accomplishments there. But it's WWE is it's WWE.
And that's what
You know,
people are growing up saying. I want to be
Mhm.
WWE World Champ, right?
Yeah, including myself. Like I was WWE or bust.
Okay.
So yeah, it's just you look at like the numbers and it's a major difference just the way the company is run. I mean, I'm still getting paychecks from the company. I haven't worked there since 2009.
WWE?
Yeah,
How's that, Paul? Is it like just merch?
just royalties. I get a royalty check every 6 months. So,
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty good.
and it's not,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to send my kids to college on it or anything, but the fact that I'm still making something from
Right.
there is
In 2009, we're in 2024 now.
right, right.
No, that's pretty
No,
cool.
that's crazy to me that it's been that long, actually.
Yeah, it's crazy how time flies. If I would have told myself, "Hey, one day I'm gonna get to interview Ken Anderson," I'd say, "No, you're lying." So it's crazy how time flies. Now, WWE TNA, can you just give me top three people you really enjoyed working with? I'm sure there's more, but just top three experiences, top three people.
Oh man, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, Batista. I would say off the top of my head in
Okay,
WWE. And TNA, I would say Bubba Ray, Bully Ray,
okay.
Kurt Angle, and Sting.
What do you think, or what feud, or what kind of program you feel like puts you on the map, or favorite program, just in general?
Well, the program or the match that put me on the map in WWE was my match with Batista, and it was sort of a last minute thing. It was the
The Great American
2007
Bash.
Great American Bash. It was kind of like I think we had 2 or 3 weeks to build.
Yeah,
Because originally it was supposed to be Mark Henry. Mark Henry snapped his kneecap in half, had to have surgery.
and
So Vince just slotted me in there. Batista
yeah, I
was coming
remember.
from an injury and just the way that match went. And I got busted open hard way twice during the match. And I
Oh,
bled like a pig and just all that sort of like helped me
the
get
perfect
on
blend with
that.
the hair.
Yeah, and just like I earned some respect from some people after that match. And that was Taker pulled me aside after that and said, I want to work with you. And so Taker actually went to Vince and requested that we be put in the program. So that Taker thing would have never happened. Well, you know,
Eventually, I remember you walked out there with Batista to start the program. You put your hand out. He went to go shake it, and you went boom. I still remember that. So yeah, it was a pretty cool one.
I don't
Um,
even do that.
you,
See, that's what I'm talking about. Like,
yeah, I'm sure. A big guy, a guy in the company, Cena. Were you ever around the guy? Did you ever get to? I believe you got to work with at least one match with him. What was it like being with a guy that again is such a big brand, a great individual business
I,
wise?
I got to work with Cena a lot.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, we actually got paired up many times. Can we pause for just 1 second?
yeah, of course.
But but it was the Batista match, and then
Then you worked with Taker and then Cena, right?
Taker. I mean, I I never like I don't think I ever worked Cena one-on-one on a pay-per-view,
No.
but we did work each other several times.
How was
Uh,
that?
I always liked it. Like I never had a I tell you the person who I enjoy the most. Well, there's this
There's a lot of
people
people.
ask me all the time, like, who's your favorite?
Yeah.
You just ask me my top three in each company, and it's like it's really hard to narrow that down because I was fortunate and I got to work with a ton of really awesome people. But like Shawn Michaels was just a dream to work with. But so was Matt Hardy, and so was Jeff Hardy, and you know, yeah, hard. That one's a hard one.
Yeah. Now, it's kind of crazy though that like John is kind of like transitioning now into this. I don't want to. I guess I don't know if part timer is fair to say that, but I mean he's still doing the thing, and it's like he never leaves. Right? He walks in, he still gets the same pop. Is that
Yeah.
either you got it or you don't, Ken, or is it just all skill that if you don't have it, you can build it over time?
I don't know anybody who works as hard as John Cena works. And that, like, we're all given people will oftentimes say, you know, he does a bunch of make-a-wishes and stuff like that. Like, to me, that's the least, because everybody gets those opportunities. It's just not spoken about. Like, every superstar there does make a wish all the time.
Yeah,
Um, and net if like I should say he has requested a lot, right?
yeah, of
Because
course,
he's John Cena.
of course.
But I've never known anybody in the company to say, to have the company come and say, "Hey, will you do this Make a Wish thing?" and have somebody say, "Nah, I don't feel like it today." Like that never occurs. So like everybody does stuff like that, but it's the time that he puts in outside. Like we would be on an overseas tour, and he would close the bar down at 4:30 in the morning and be in the gym at 6:30 in the morning
It's
with a
insane.
smile on his face, or he'd be getting on the bus at 7 o'clock in the morning with a smile on his face, not selling, not dragging ass, just chipper, ready to go. So I remember my first year at WWE, it was it was spoken that John Cena that year had spent out of 365 days, he'd been home one day,
Yeah.
one day out of that year where he actually stepped foot into his own home. Like he was just buying clothes. He would go to Target and buy big packs of socks and underwear and just use them once and throw them away. He wasn't even doing laundry.
That's
That right
insane.
there is so, in a roundabout way, I'm trying to say like the success that he's experiencing is all because of the work that he put in.
Nah, that's insane. It's insane. Now, do your kids? I know you got a couple kiddos. Do they ever get told, "Oh, your dad's Mr. Kennedy"?
They do, they know, and they think it's cool, but it's not like they'll say like, especially when somebody comes up to me at a store, um they think it's really cool. And then like sometimes they've even I was at a gas station a couple months ago, and one of the kids like said to the clerk, like, "Do you watch wrestling?" And, and like pointed out that I was Mr. Kennedy or whatever, and I wrestled in the WWE. So, but they're not crazy about it. They don't really watch
Yeah,
wrestling themselves. They'll come to the academy with me. They get in the ring and goof off, but it's not something that they're like glued to.
yeah,
Um, I don't think it's really dawned on them too much. It's just I remember when I was younger, or when they were younger. This was probably 2017. We had just started the academy, and Davari was over at my house, and he's like, "Do they know what you do or what you did? Like, do they have any clue?" And I said, "I don't think so." So he's like, "Let's pull something up on YouTube." So we pulled up a video, put it up on the TV, and the kids were playing in the living room, and I just said, like, "Hey, Pierce Prescott, who's that?" And they went, "Dad," and then went right back to playing and doing what.
that's funny.
So.
That's funny. Well, Ken, you've been awesome, man. It's been a privilege and an honor to be able to speak with you, man. Is there anything you want to let your fans know or the audience know before we sign off here?
Just give me a buzz. I'm taking bookings. If there's any promoters listening to this, I'm taking bookings again. And if somebody is interested in getting into the business of professional wrestling, I'd like to help you out. Honestly, we have a great community at the academy, and my number is like it's me or my wife that answers these texts. So please feel free to text our number. It's 507-722-2776.
Awesome. And we'll have that on the video on here as well. Ken,
Appreciate it.
it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for your time today. And to everyone out there listening, thank you so much. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.
Thank you.